If you're a leader who would rather prevent problems than fix them, watch this episode. So this is about something from one of my favorite people who just happens to also have a Nobel Prize. He's not got any dumber over the years, I'll tell you. When he put out, this is with the person I'm speaking of, I won't talk about their name just yet. All I can tell you is they run the Nobel Prize in behavioral economics, basically for creating the field. So if you know who that is, great. And if you don't, they also published a book more recently, quite a bit more recently in the last year or so, I think, called, co-published, I believe, co-wrote, called Noise. And yes, the person I'm talking about is Daniel Kahneman. What's so brilliant about this guy, obviously, he's a Nobel Prize winner. He's got to be brilliant. You don't get that without that. But that instead of basically going deeper down the rabbit hole or capitalizing on his Nobel Prize and not doing any further work, in Noise, he talks about a completely different aspect. Bias is an entirely different thing than noise, and he actually argued that noise is even more of a problem in performance and judgment than, that noise is more of a problem in performance and judgment even than bias. But it's another variable, but its actual amplitude, its complete net effect is actually greater. And then he goes into some very intriguing and challenging problems as, great, we can get rid of a whole bunch of noise, but sometimes it causes problems we wouldn't anticipate because we're using algorithms which then don't make considerations outside of their purview, what they've been programmed to do. Okay, that's quite a bit of an aside for something which is called how to plan proactively. Now, I don't know if Daniel Kahneman is the person who invented this technique or whether he was just the one who I learned it from via listening to his books, and in particular, Noise. But I was originally going to call this Back from the Future. This phrase, to be honest with you, this was written into my episode log, which is now over 50 ahead, so I can't remember honestly when this was initially written. It quite literally could have been months ago that this was first written into here, and it says perspective hindsight. I'm going to guess that that was the phrase that came out of Kahneman's book, Noise, but I'm not certain. Another phrase that is used, or that I would use in the same sense, is called a pre-mortem, and I know for certain that comes from Kahneman and from that book. So a pre-mortem is like a post-mortem, but surprise, surprise, done previous to the results, previous to execution of the plan. So he talks about both sides of the coin, and this is the kind of multi-dimensional thinking that Nobel Prize winners do, the geniuses perhaps of all stripes do, and that was, he says, instead of more or less, okay, we had this project, here were the results, now how can we not screw this up in this way again, or how could we do it better next time? Excuse me, my throat's bothering me. He said something quite different. He said, look, how about before we even cut the plan, while we're planning, before we actually execute on anything, let's imagine this was after the project was completed and it was a spectacular success. Now let's look at it and examine what the causes were that produced that spectacular success, and then create those causes, and identify those causes and what things were done well to create that spectacular success. Now he says you flip that coin over to the dark side, and he says, imagine the same project has just been completed, fully completed, and it was an unmitigated disaster. and what happened to cause those disasters, and how could you prevent that from happening again in the future. So he looks both at the optimistic side and the pessimistic side. And this is really important because him being basically a world authority on judgment, he knows, and I would guess most people know, that when somebody puts together a business plan, or when somebody puts together most plans, especially in business, in life too perhaps, but especially in business, I heard the most honest comment about a business plan, because I think business plans by and large, oh no, I'm going to say it, are ridiculous. And the reason they're ridiculous is because what this man, who was a serial entrepreneur and a venture capitalist, said, he says, all business plans are works of fiction. They are almost without exception lacking enough information to make the presumptions that they do, the usually massive assumptions that are almost always astoundingly unrealistic. And this, what he's talking about here, what Kahneman's talking about here, is a brilliant way to balance that off. This particular VC basically says the only reason I have somebody write a business plan is to prove that they can do it and they can do documentation. I don't take it seriously as being much insight into their actual plan. I just want to see their capabilities of doing those kind of documents. So this is why this is proactive planning. If you take a look at any sort of plan you want to do, and I'm actually not a big planner, and I don't mean I'm irresponsible about the way I do things or that I don't plan at all. It's more like I clearly define the destination and I clearly identify the next knowable, immediately actionable solution. But adding to that technique, but further adding to any technique, it's, as far as I'm concerned, a pandemic of arrogance, presumption, and naivety that people really think they can plan. Weeks maybe is okay, but months, years in advance, what is going to happen is profoundly unrealistic, yet still accepted in business. So this is a brilliant way to sort of balance that off. It's not to get rid of planning. This is to do the best planning you can to anticipate both the darkest days ahead and actually, like I said, get a multidimensional look at this and prevent those things from happening. So not only to get the positive effects of being optimistic and having a good positive mindset, but without being naive and foolish, sinking into the sunk cost fallacy, sinking into unrealistic rose-colored glass type plans by looking at both sides of any plan. Now, this doesn't have to be any specific plan, but just as a habit for you as a leader, for your reports, for your company, is to say, okay, what would the best case scenario look like? Now let's go back and see what made it that best case scenario. Let's look at the causes. Let's look at the steps going backwards, reasoning backwards from the end to the beginning that produce those results. And now let's go see the disaster and do the same thing. So this gives you just a more rounded, more realistic, more complete view. You can't anticipate anything, but at the very least, this is more fundamentally realistic, more preventative of those unrealistic excitement glasses that companies and individuals of all stripes tend to have. So when you want to plan something, plan the best outcome, or imagine the best outcome, and then work backwards to see how you might arrive at it. Do the same with the dark side of the coin and come back to how that happened and how you can prevent it. That's it for Crush It Club 123, How to Plan Proactively. If you enjoyed this episode and it had value, please share, like, and subscribe. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.